What if I told you that one wrong turn on a deserted Arizona highway could end with armed criminals surrounding your truck, and the only thing standing between you and a bullet is a CB radio with no signal? This is exactly what happened to me on a Tuesday night that changed my life forever. I drive trucks for a living. I have been doing it for about 15 years now, and nothing really prepares you for what I am about to share. It was a Tuesday night in October 2018, and I was hauling a full load of consumer electronics from a warehouse in Phoenix, heading east toward Albuquerque. The manifest showed mostly tablets, smartphones, gaming consoles. The kind of stuff that gets stolen and flipped quick on the black market. I had just passed through Flagstaff around 11 p.m., and the temperature gauge showed 38 degrees outside. My wife Melissa had called me earlier that evening to remind me about our daughter's soccer game that weekend. I remember thinking how I could not wait to get home after this run. The CB radio was quiet, just occasional static. I had an old country playlist going to keep me awake. That stretch of Interstate 40 through Arizona gets pretty desolate after midnight. Nothing but darkness and the occasional coyote crossing. About an hour past Flagstaff, maybe around midnight, I noticed two cars up ahead acting strange. One was a dark blue sedan. It looked like a Nissan Altima with those aftermarket LED strips under the chassis that made it glow purple. The other was a silver SUV, probably a Chevy Tahoe, with heavily tinted windows and no front license plate. They were weaving between lanes, speeding up, then slowing down, almost like they were racing or messing around. At first, I figured it was just some kids being stupid, maybe drunk. So I eased off the accelerator and gave them plenty of space. The last thing you want when you're hauling 60,000 pounds of cargo is to get tangled up with reckless drivers. But then they started doing this weird synchronized thing. They would match speeds perfectly, driving side by side across both lanes for about 30 seconds before one would surge ahead. My dashboard showed we were doing about 55 in a 75 zone. Something about their movements felt deliberate, practiced even. The whole situation changed in about 10 seconds. The Tahoe suddenly gunned it and pulled ahead, maybe 200 yards, while the Altima stayed right in front of me, maintaining that slow crawl. Then I saw the Tahoe's brake lights flare up like Christmas decorations as it jerked hard to the left, sliding sideways across both lanes. The tires screamed against the asphalt, leaving thick black marks I could see in my headlights. My first thought was that the driver had lost control, maybe blown a tire or something. The SUV ended up completely perpendicular to the road, blocking everything. I hit my air brakes hard. The whole rig shuddered as 70,000 pounds of truck and cargo fought against momentum. The sound was like a giant metal beast groaning, and I could smell the brake pads burning immediately. Thank God I had left enough distance, because I managed to stop about 40 feet from the Tahoe. The Altima had slowed even more and was now creeping along in the right lane beside me, boxing me in against the median. My instincts kicked in before my brain fully processed what was happening. 23 years of marriage to a cop's daughter means you hear stories. Melissa's dad, Frank, had told me about these highway cargo theft rings operating out of Mexico and California. I reached for my CB radio with one hand while my other went to the gear shift, ready to ram through if needed. But before I could even key the mic, both car doors flew open simultaneously. 4 men jumped out wearing black ski masks and dark coveralls.
Two came from the Tahoe with crowbars, heading straight for my trailer's lock mechanism. The other two from the Altima ran toward my cab. One was carrying what looked like a small sledgehammer. The guy with the hammer had this weird limp, like his left leg was shorter than his right, but he moved fast despite it. They weren't saying anything, just moving with this eerie efficiency, like they had done this 100 times before. I locked my doors just as the first guy reached my driver's side door. He started pounding on the window with his fist, not the hammer yet, just testing. Through the glass, I could see his eyes through the mask holes, bloodshot and wide, maybe high on something. The window was rattling in its frame with each hit, and I knew it wouldn't hold long against that hammer. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but there was no signal out there, just that mocking no service message. The CB radio was my only shot. I started broadcasting on Channel 19, the emergency channel all truckers monitor. Breaker, breaker, this is eastbound Interstate 40, mile marker 178. Attempted hijacking in progress. Need immediate assistance. 4 armed suspects. Static came back. Then nothing. The guys at my trailer were making progress. I could hear the metallic grinding of crowbars working against the lock. One of them had produced a portable angle grinder from somewhere, and orange sparks were flying off my trailer doors like a 4th of July sparkler show.
The limping guy finally brought the sledgehammer up and swung it at my window. The safety glass spiderwebbed instantly, but held together. White cracks spreading out like lightning bolts from the impact point. He reared back for another swing, and that is when I made my decision. I dropped the truck into gear and hit the accelerator, turning the wheel hard right toward the shoulder. The rig lurched forward with a diesel roar that drowned out everything else. The 2 guys at my cab dove away. The limping one actually rolled pretty athletically for someone with that gait issue. My plan was to get around the Tahoe using the shoulder, even if it meant taking out some guardrail. But as soon as I started moving, I heard gunshots. 3 quick pops that sounded like firecrackers, but definitely were not. My passenger mirror exploded into pieces, and I could hear another round punch through the sleeper cabin behind me. These were not just thieves. They were willing to kill for this load. I floored it. The big Peterbilt 579 responded like an angry bull. The speedometer climbed past 40, 50, approaching 60 as I aimed for the narrow gap between the Tahoe and the concrete median barrier. At the last second, the masked men scattered like roaches when you turn on a kitchen light. The one who had been shooting, a tall, skinny guy from the Tahoe, actually dropped his pistol and had to scramble back for it. My truck's front bumper clipped the Tahoe's rear end with this horrible shrieking of metal on metal, spinning it about 90 degrees and shoving it into the median. The impact jolted me hard against my seatbelt, and my coffee thermos went flying, spilling lukewarm coffee all over the dash. But I was through, back on open highway. I kept my foot planted on that accelerator. In my remaining mirror, I could see them running back to their vehicles, the limping guy moving with surprising speed despite his handicap. The Altima's engine roared to life first, its purple underglow creating this surreal streak of color against the dark asphalt as it gave chase. For about 3 miles, it was just me and that Altima in the strangest race of my life. They stayed about 50 yards behind me, matching my speed at around 75, which was pushing it hard for a loaded rig on that stretch. Every time the road curved, I could feel the trailer wanting to swing wide,
the cargo shifting inside with deep metallic groans. Then I saw it, a sight that nearly made me weep with relief. Red and blue lights appeared in my mirror, coming up fast from behind the Ultima. Not just one patrol car, but 3, plus what looked like an unmarked detective vehicle. The Ultima immediately hit its brakes and tried to take an emergency vehicle turnaround, but the cops were ready for that move. 2 units followed while the others continued toward me. Later, I found out that another trucker about 10 miles behind me had heard my CB call and had enough signal to phone it in. Doug Brannon was his name, hauling produce from California. I still send him a Christmas card every year for saving my life. That night, the cops had me pull over at the next mile marker. I sat there shaking while they checked on me. The officer who approached my cab was a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 25, with this thick Boston accent that seemed completely out of place in Arizona. Officer Kathleen Murphy, badge number 4417. Funny how you remember certain details when you're in shock. She had me step out of the cab slowly, and that is when I saw the damage. Beyond the missing mirror and the bullet holes, there were pry marks all along my trailer where they had been working on the lock. The angle grinder had cut about halfway through the thick steel before I had driven off. Officer Murphy said they had been tracking this crew for 6 months. They had been hitting truckers carrying electronics between Phoenix and Albuquerque. They specifically targeted solo drivers on Tuesday and Wednesday nights when traffic was lightest. The limping guy, she told me, was actually the ringleader, a former dock worker who had injured his leg in a forklift accident and knew exactly which shipments were worth hitting. They caught 3 of the 4 that night. The Ultima passengers gave up pretty quick once the spike strips shredded their tires, but the limping ones somehow vanished into the desert. The cops found the Tahoe abandoned about 2 miles from where everything went down. It still had my truck's paint on its bumper and everything. The 3 they arrested were all from the same crew out of Bakersfield, with records for armed robbery and interstate cargo theft. During the investigation, they found a whole notebook in the Ultima with detailed information about trucking routes, shipping schedules, even driver names and habits. My run was marked with a red star and the note, "Electronic shipment, single driver, no team, vulnerable at mile 175 on I-40. Turned out they had someone at the Phoenix warehouse feeding them information. A night shift supervisor named Glenn Howard who had been selling shipment details for $500 a pop. The FBI got involved because of the interstate nature of it all, and I had to testify at the trial 8 months later. The company gave me 2 weeks paid leave after that night. But honestly, getting back in the truck was harder than I expected. For the first month back, every time I saw 2 cars driving together at night, my chest would tighten up and I would start sweating through my shirt. Melissa wanted me to quit, find something local, maybe work dispatch or become a driving instructor. But trucking is what I know, and I was not going to let those bastards take that from me. I did make some changes though. I started carrying a legal tire thumper that doubles as a pretty solid defensive tool. I installed better locks on my trailer. And now I always check in with dispatch every hour when doing night runs. The company also started sending high-value electronic shipments with team drivers only, and they vary the routes randomly. That warehouse supervisor, Glenn Howard, got 7 years federal time for his part in it. The 3 they caught that night got 15 to 20 for armed robbery and conspiracy. The limping guy, though, he is still out there somewhere, and that keeps me sharp every run. It has been 5 years now since that night on Interstate 40, and I still drive that same stretch regularly. Every time I pass mile marker 178, I can see those black skid marks from the Tahoe, though they're fading more each year from sun and weather. Sometimes other truckers will get on the CB around that area and ask if I'm the guy from the blockade incident. Word travels in our community. I always tell them the same thing: trust your gut, maintain your distance, and never assume you're alone out there, even when it looks empty. The investigation revealed that crew had successfully hit 11 trucks before they tried for mine, stealing over $3 million in merchandise. Those drivers all said the same thing. It happened so fast, they barely had time to react. The only reason I managed to get away was because I had been paranoid about their synchronized driving for that extra mile before they made their move. That 30 seconds of suspicion probably saved my life, definitely saved the cargo, and helped take down a major theft ring. Though I heard from Officer Murphy last year that similar crews are popping up again, using motorcycles instead of cars. So yeah, I still drive nights. I still haul valuable loads. But now I watch everything and everyone, because it actually might.
What would you do if a terrified woman flagged you down in the middle of nowhere at 3 a.m., begging you to save her from someone who was coming back to get her? Would you unlock your door, or would you keep driving? I have hauled the Amarillo lane so many times I could drive it in my sleep. US Highway 287 at 3 in the morning feels like another planet. Just asphalt, darkness, fence lines fading into the void, the silhouette of a windmill watching you pass, and not much else. That night in March 2018 was just another night behind the wheel. Coffee in the thermos, cruise set just under 65. Nothing out of place. The first odd thing was how empty it all felt. So empty, I started counting reflectors just to fight the monotony. And then I saw her. She was on the shoulder, waving both arms, stepping into the edge of my lane. Hair plastered to her face from the wind. Even through the glare of my own headlights, I could see her mouth moving. I eased off the throttle and thumbed the CB mic. Any DPS on 287 near mile 104? Female pedestrian flagging traffic. Static. Nothing. As I rolled closer, she bolted to the passenger side of my rig, slapping the door and shouting something I could not hear over the hiss of my brakes. She was young, maybe late 20s. No coat, no bag. Her fists banged against the step rail. I cracked the window an inch. "Please, he's coming back. He's going to get me again. Let me in, please." I did not think. I threw the lock and pulled the door handle. She scrambled up the steps and into the seat like she had been chased for miles. She was trembling hard, staring out the windshield instead of at me. I reached for the CB again, but caught a movement in the mirror. A pickup. Headlights off. Grille glinting just enough to make it visible. It was closing fast. She saw it too and started screaming, clutching the dash. "Go, go, don't let him block us." I jammed the truck into gear and rolled. The trailer creaked, air brakes releasing in a rush. The pickup kept coming, then swung wide and cut in front of us with its lights still off. "Stay down," I barked, gripping the wheel. I flashed my hazards once and leaned on the air horn. The pickup drifted across my lane like it wanted me to brake. I did not. I let the rig build speed on the downgrade, engine howling, trailer rattling. The pickup swerved again, but I held my line. At the last second, it veered off to the shoulder, then fell back. We did not speak for a full minute, just watched the mirrors.
Finally, the headlights snapped on and the truck dropped out of view, like it had decided to wait for someone else. I took the next lit exit at speed, tires barking as we hit the ramp, pulled into a 24-hour station, nose out, high beams on, grabbed my phone, 2 bars now, called 911. US 287 near mile 10-something, I told the dispatcher. Female pedestrian flagged me down, saying someone was after her. Pickup tried to cut us off. It's sitting out there somewhere. She said units were on the way. Stay in your vehicle. If he approaches, do not engage. The woman was still shaking. She kept looking nervously at the frontage road, flinching at every pair of headlights that passed. I handed her my water bottle. After a few sips, words tumbled out. He picked me up outside Amarillo, said he would give me a ride to Oklahoma City, but when I asked to be dropped off at a station, he locked the doors. She stopped, staring out the windshield like she couldn't finish. I jumped out when he slowed on the shoulder. Thought I had lost him, but he turned around. I told her we were safe now, that police were on the way, but she kept clutching the dash like she was ready to spring again. I kept the truck idling, nose out, headlights on high beams. 15 minutes later, red and blues flickered across the lot. A county cruiser pulled in, followed by another. I stepped down slow, hands visible, told them what happened. They took her statement first. One deputy crouched by the passenger step with a notebook ready. She repeated the same story. Hitchhiked, man wouldn't let her out, chased her when she ran. Another unit cruised the frontage road. The pickup was gone. Could have peeled off on a ranch cut, one officer said. Miles of dirt roads out here. Once they're dark, they vanish. They offered to take her to a shelter in Amarillo. She agreed quickly, desperate to get inside their car. Before she left, she looked at me once, almost guilty, and whispered, "Thank you for stopping." I gave a nod, not sure what to say. When the lot was quiet again, I did a walk around with my flashlight. Trailer straps intact, tires fine. Just that smear of dust on the grab handle where she had clawed her way up. I did not park in Amarillo that night. I drove 2 more hours and pulled into a crowded truck plaza. Curtains cracked an inch, keys in my hand, lights close by. A habit I have not broken since. A week later, a trooper called. "We filed it," he said. "No pickup matched, no arrests." That was it. Quiet night, he called it. But I still hear her voice when I think of that stretch of highway. The way she said, "He's going to get me again." And every time I see someone on the shoulder now, man or woman, it doesn't matter. I call first, keep rolling, and never, ever stop in the dark. They do not call Highway 50 the loneliest road in America as a joke. And on one July night in Nevada, I learned that loneliness is not the most dangerous thing out there. Sometimes it is the people waiting in the dark. Nevada's stretch of Highway 50 feels like it runs across the bones of the earth. 2 lanes pinned to emptiness, sagebrush stretching forever, mountains flat against the horizon. I was running it in July 2016, Ely to Fallon, standard overnight haul, dry goods, light load, nothing exciting. My ELD was tight, but I figured I would catnap at the next turnout. The night had that strange desert quiet. The moon was bright enough to turn the sage into black and white shadows. Mesas like cardboard cutouts in the distance. Radio dead quiet. I remember thinking, good night for an easy run. And that is when I noticed the shape up ahead. From a mile out, it looked like a block across my lane. dark, wrong. As I closed in, it resolved into a sedan parked sideways. No flashers, no hood up, driver's door just barely cracked. I eased off the throttle, touched the Jake, then killed it. No need to announce myself more than 40 tons already did. I feathered the brakes and swept the roadside with my eyes. Something moved in the sage, low, quick, like heads ducking. Then another shape, opposite side. That was the moment my blood went cold. This was not a breakdown. It was a trap. Truckers have an unspoken list of rules. One is do not put yourself nose to nose with a problem someone else arranged, not on an empty highway with no cell bars and no witnesses. You do not step out unless you know what you are stepping into. I had seconds to decide. Shoulder too steep? Stop and back? Recipe for jackknifing into a ditch. Only move left? Go through? I dropped a gear, centered up, laid on the air horn, a long, screaming blast. My bumper met the side of the sedan square. The car jerked, tires screaming as it slid sideways. Gravel pinged my undercarriage. Out of the sage, two figures shot out, scattering back instead of forward. That told me what I needed. They were not desperate, just opportunistic. The sedan rolled just enough to open me a sliver. Trailer shimmied, but held. I kept my hands firm, did not swerve, just kept going forward. When the rear trailer cleared, I finally breathed. Road stretched open again. Desert silent, as if nothing had happened. I checked the mirror. Sedan sat crooked in the dark. No lights came on. Nothing followed. I kept it at 55, eyes glued to every turnout, like they were open mouths waiting to swallow me. The nap I planned was gone. I drove past legal hours until the horizon turned blue. The truck stop outside Fallon looked like heaven. Fluorescent buzzing, other rigs lined up like guardians. I parked nose out, killed the engine. My hands just stayed clamped to the wheel. When I finally did my walk-around, I found a scrape of paint, not mine, streaked low across the bumper. Inside, I asked for a landline and called Highway Patrol. Gave them the mile marker and facts. Sedan sideways across lane, made contact, saw individuals in brush. Trooper said I was not the first to report staged blocks out there. Could be thieves, could be worse, he said. Just a report logged and another warning for the file. I tried to sleep, but every sound in the lot felt like a footstep. When I finally rolled on, the desert looked normal again. That is the part that gets you, how quickly it goes back to looking empty, innocent, harmless. Even now, when I think back, I don't picture the car as much as the movement in the sage. Human silhouettes ducking down like coyotes hiding from headlights. That is what still crawls under my skin. These days, I don't nap on Highway 50. I stick to lit truck stops, even if it means pushing extra miles. If I see a car sideways across a road again, I already know my plan. Horn and geometry. Nothing else. Because that night, I learned something simple and ugly. Some people count on you being better than they are. They expect you to stop. And out there in the dark, being decent is the door they are trying to pry open. She whispered two words that made my blood run cold. Don't leave me. But when I turned my back for just 10 seconds, she vanished like she was never there. And the two men watching from the shadows, they
never looked away. I was in my second year of trucking, 25 at the time, still learning which instincts I could trust. Tulsa, August 2019. I had timed my fuel stop carefully, slipping into that quiet window between the dinner rush and the 2 a.m. bar crowd. Normally, that is when stations are calmest. Swipe card, set nozzle, glove up, restroom, grab an energy drink, back out. Same order every time. Because the less you think, the quicker you notice when something is not right. That night, I parked by the pumps close enough to the door to cut down my walk. A couple of rigs were parked across the lot, engines droning like background music. I swiped my card, clipped the nozzle, leaned against the side of my truck, stretching my back. Then I heard a whisper, so faint I thought at first it was the hiss of the pumps. "Don't leave me." I turned. A girl was standing at the edge of the pump island. 17 maybe. No coat, no bag, just shorts and a t-shirt. Shoes without socks. Her hair was tied back carelessly, like she had left in a rush. She did not stumble or slur like someone drunk. She looked clear-eyed, but terrified. "You okay?" I asked. She looked toward a silver sedan parked near the store. 2 men leaned against it. They were not looking at her. They were staring at me. The girl's shoulders hunched as if she was trying to shrink. "Don't leave me," she whispered again. "Come inside with me," I said quickly. "We'll talk to the clerk." She hesitated. Her feet shifted like she wanted to move, but was waiting for permission. The men by the sedan stayed motionless, and that was what made my stomach tighten. They did not call her back, did not scold her for talking to me. They just watched, like I was the variable they were measuring. I stepped sideways, keeping my eyes on them, and freed the nozzle. The pump beeped, but I left it running. "Come with me," I said to her again, firmer this time. She followed me inside. The clerk looked up from his counter. "Call the police," I said quietly. His eyes darted to the girl, then back to me. Without hesitation, he reached for the phone beneath the counter. "What's the emergency?" he asked. "Possible abduction," I said. 2 men outside, silver sedan." He repeated the words into the receiver, then added, "Need a unit now." I turned to make sure the girl was with me, but she was not. "Miss?" I called, checking the aisles. No bathroom door swinging, no freezer open. She was just gone. The clerk swore under his breath, still on the line with dispatch. "She came in with a trucker, now she's gone. 2 males outside by a sedan, no plate visible." She had vanished as suddenly as she appeared. The men outside had not moved toward the store. They leaned against the sedan, still watching. Not the girl, me. "Don't go out there," the clerk said quickly. "Wait for the cops. They're close." We stood side by side, using the windows as mirrors, careful not to press too close. 90 seconds crawled by. Then red and blue lights swept across the lot. The sedan rolled away like nothing had happened. The officers listened to my account, then replayed the security footage. The girl's figure appeared on screen, small and blurred. The men were just shadows by the sedan. No plate could be read. No missing person report matched her description. "You did the right thing," the older officer told me.
bring people inside. Keep them in camera view. Involve staff. Don't isolate." I nodded, but my mind was stuck on her whisper. "Don't leave me." I moved my reg closer to other drivers. I did not leave right away. I sat with the engine idling, replaying every detail. Should I have grabbed her arm? Should I have dragged her further inside? Or was that exactly what those men wanted, to make me step out into the lot alone? I kept checking news sites afterward, waiting to see if a missing girl was reported. Nothing ever came up. Maybe she was bait. Maybe she was genuinely begging for help. Maybe she was both. I will never know. Since that night, I radio for another trucker when I stop after midnight. I ask clerks to watch me go in and out. Simple things, but they matter. Because the scariest part is not always what does happen. Sometimes it is what almost does, or what you never get answers for. That night in Tulsa taught me that. I woke up to the sound of tires on gravel. A van had parked right next to my truck, so close our doors were almost touching. And in the middle of the night, in an empty rest area, that is never an accident. I have been on the road most of my life. I started trucking in my 20s when I was still full of that restless energy and thought driving across the country sounded more like an adventure than a job. By the time of this story, I was 44, a widower, and trucking was not an adventure anymore. It was survival. The kind of survival where you get your loads, keep your wheels moving, and learn to live with the silence of your own cab. This happened in May of 2014 on a route I had taken more times than I could count, moving freight across Arizona. I had just finished a long haul eastbound and was dead tired, the kind of tired where even strong coffee feels like water. Near Flagstaff, there is this rest area I had pulled into a few times before. Nothing special. 2 bathrooms that smelled of bleach and old urine, a couple vending machines with stale chips and sodas, and a parking lot half lit by buzzing lamps that always seemed to flicker out when you needed them most. Still, it was a place to stop, set the brakes, and catch a few hours in the sleeper. That night, it was nearly empty. Just me and one old SUV parked crooked at the far end. That was exactly how I liked it. Empty meant quiet. Quiet meant maybe a chance at real sleep. I parked nose out like I always did, because if something felt wrong, I wanted nothing between me and the ramp except the turn of a key. I set my alarm for 3 hours, drew the sleeper curtains, stretched out on the bunk. I thought I would be out cold in minutes, but sleep does not always come easy when you have been alone too long. I stared up at the ceiling of the cab for a while, listening to the distant whoosh of cars on the interstate. Every so often, a semi roared past, and the ground vibrated just enough to remind me I was not totally alone. At some point, though, I drifted off. It could not have been more than a couple hours later when I woke to the sound of tires on gravel. You learn to notice little noises when you live on the road. A car door shutting 2 spots away can wake you faster than an alarm. This one was different. The engine was low, almost humming. I realized it had pulled in without headlights. That was enough to pull me fully awake. Through the curtain, I saw a van. It had slid into the space right next to me. Now, anyone who drives a truck knows there is unwritten etiquette in rest areas. You do not crowd another driver when the place is empty. You just do not. That is what raised the first red flag. There had to be a dozen other spots, but this van parked tight against my passenger side, almost too close. That was not coincidence. I pulled my curtain back an inch and looked. The side door of the van was lined up with my steps, the ones right below my cab door. No movement yet, no noise, just a dark rectangle with no plates I could see. Something about it prickled the back of my mind. I told myself maybe it was someone catching sleep like me. Still, I slid my boots on just in case and rested my hand near the air horn lanyard above my seat. It was around 2:40 a.m. when I heard a faint metallic tap, like something brushed my steps. Then whispers, two voices, low, trying not to carry. I leaned forward just enough to peer out. Then I saw them. Two shapes crouched near the grab handle. They were right there, inches from my cab, as if waiting for me to come down. I cannot describe the kind of fear that washed over me in that moment. Not panic, not the kind that makes you run. It was cold, deliberate fear. The kind that narrows your vision and makes every thought laser sharp. They were not here by accident. They were not travelers. They were hunting. Without thinking too much, I slammed the air horn. The blast shook the whole cab, rattled my mirrors, echoed across the lot like a shotgun. I expected them to scatter. Anyone would have. But they did not. They flinched, sure, but then they moved toward me, toward my driver's side window. One of them cupped his hands around his mouth and started yelling, "Get out of the truck!" The other one pounded the side of my door hard enough that the whole cab vibrated. Whatever they wanted, it was not help. I could see their faces now. Intent was all I needed to see. And their intent was clear. I did not wait another second. I fired the ignition, my foot hit the clutch, hand on the stick. I swung the wheel hard, the truck lurched forward, and I gunned it toward the ramp. My trailer rattled, load groaning against the straps, but I did not care. I just needed distance. The van reversed fast, but I was already halfway to the exit. I hit the horn again, long and punishing. Kept my eyes locked on the road. Every muscle in my body was wound tight, waiting for a gunshot or the slam of metal into my rear. But it never came. By the time I hit the merge, my rig was thundering at 60, and the rest area lights were fading in the mirror. I did not stop. Could not. I called 911 on Bluetooth as I merged, voice shaking even though I tried to keep it level. The dispatcher listened, asked for my location, told me to keep moving until I reached a well-lit truck stop. "There isn't a unit nearby," she said. "Just keep going." Easy for her to say. My hands were locked on the wheel, eyes flecking between the mirrors and the black stretch of highway ahead. Every pair of headlights in the distance made my stomach clench. I could not shake the image of those two crouched figures at my step. I drove 70 miles before I finally pulled into a busy truck plaza. Lights bright as daylight, cameras on every pump. Only then did I kill the engine and sit back, shaking so hard I couldn't unclench my jaw. The police showed up about 40 minutes later. They told me I did the right thing by leaving fast and loud. That did not make me feel better. It just made me wonder how many other drivers had stopped. How many had not been so lucky? After that night, I changed the way I run. I do not sleep in isolated rest areas anymore, not if I can help it. Only 24-hour truck plazas with cameras, attendants, and other rigs parked close by. Sometimes I even nap with the engine idling just to feel like I can move at a second's notice. I never saw their eyes clearly, but I will never forget the way they looked at me. Like I was already theirs if I just opened that door. That is the thing about trucking people don't get. The cab feels like a fortress when you're inside it, but it is not. All it takes is one wrong decision, one moment of trust, and that fortress becomes a trap. I learned that the hard way in a near-empty rest area outside Flagstaff. And I don't think I will ever sleep easy on the road again.
I was in my second year of trucking when I heard a sound that still haunts me. A muffled cry coming from inside a car in the middle of the night. I had seconds to decide. Stop and investigate, call the police, or keep driving. I made my choice, and I still do not know if it was the right one. I have been behind the wheel most of my adult life. 30 years in, I can tell you that interstate rest areas past midnight all share the same personality. Not peaceful, not lively, just hollow. If you are lucky, the noise stays just bugs, bulbs, and wind. If you are unlucky, you hear something else. This was Interstate 64 outside Louisville, June 2015. I was tired, already regretting the gas station burrito sitting in my gut. I had lost the fight with my eyelids 5 exits back, so I pulled into the rest stop. The plan was simple. 45 minutes, alarm set, then roll again. Just enough to straighten my logbook line and keep from ending up in the median. The place was not empty, but close. A state plow truck sat under the far light. A crooked sedan by the vending machines. A family-style minivan that had seen better years. Restrooms lit, info center dark. I picked my spot, shut down the rig, did my ritual scan. Mirrors, angles, blind corners, footpaths, old abbots. Nobody moving, just bugs orbiting poles. I half closed my privacy curtain, leaving a gap to watch the entrance. Stretched on the bunk, the highway's whoosh filtered through. Hiss of tires, thumps on dotted seams. I was out in under a minute. The alarm ripped me back after 40 minutes. My mouth felt like cotton. I was reaching for the ignition when something clicked in my head. Sound. Faint but human. A muffled strain. I sat still. A second noise followed, the kind of squeak a dome light switch makes, though I could not see it. Then came the muffled sound again, shorter this time, like a word stuffed into cloth. Through the curtain gap, I saw the sedan 2 spots down. Its interior light blinked once and went dark. The blink you get from a door opened, then shut quick. Nothing else moved. My first instinct, hit the air horn, announce myself. Second instinct, dial 911 and let a trooper sort it. Third, step down and knock on the window like the decent man my old man raised. Instead, I hesitated. I told myself it could be an argument, it could be nothing. But the sound came again, higher now, panicked, unmistakably human. My hand went for the horn cord, then froze. I wanted more certainty before I acted. I decided on a plan. Start the engine, swing the rig across the lot, block the sedan from leaving, then hammer the horn. No heroics, just light and steel. But before I moved, the sedan's tail lights flared red, then cut. The car straightened, glided forward without headlights, hugging shadow until the last second. Then the beam snapped on, and it was gone, up the ramp, swallowed by the interstate. I pulled out and followed at a distance, not to catch them, I knew I could not, just to move, because sitting in that silence felt worse. But there were 2 exits, and by the time I picked one, every car was just anonymous taillights. I stopped at a 24-hour truck stop bathed in harsh light, called 911, told the dispatcher exactly what I had seen: car, interior light, muffled screams. She asked for make, model, plate. I had little to give. She said they would send a unit, asked if I wanted a callback. I said yes, though I dreaded the ring. Hours later, a young officer called back. They checked the rest stop, the bathrooms, shoulders for 10 miles. Nothing unusual. No car matched my description. No bodies. No arrests. He gave me a case number, the bureaucratic version of a shrug. For weeks, I kept asking myself, was that cry bait or a victim? Did I escape a trap or leave someone behind? If you want the neat answer, I do not have it. There was no news article, no missing person flyer, no plate number to circle in a notebook. Just a crooked car, a flicker of light, a smothered sound, and my own hesitation. That is what stuck. Not what I did, but what I did not. People ask if I am haunted. Haunted means something chases you. This does not. It just sits like a mile marker I pass in my head every so often. A reminder of how thin the line is between doing nothing and doing something, and how fast it disappears when the moment is gone. The quiet of rest areas after midnight is not peace. It is a question. That night, I answered too late. I have been trying to answer earlier, ever since.